Well, hello there. How is everyone? You amazing, beautiful, wonderful people. It's Saturday. It's a wonderful day. You're looking wonderful. Everyone's wonderful. Everything is wonderful. Let's get straight into the meat and potatoes. And before we do, actually, I'll get back Shadrach. Subscribe to the channel as we're heading towards the upper echelons of 100,000 subscribers. And also like the video, even if you're not going to like it. Just do something nice. Do something nice. It's like when you give money for puppies and stuff. Like, you put a monthly thing in, didn't you, where you adopt a puppy or whatever. I once adopted an old lady. Said you could like adopt an old lady because she couldn't afford to live and have heating and all that, and you'd get newsletters and they'd send you photographs. Well, about 3 months after I'd started giving her money, the photograph, she had a tan. So she went from not being able to afford her heating to she had a tan. I was paying to heat her, not send her on holiday, not send her to Benidorm. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, anyway, I digress. What are we talking about? Talking about this doc. Earlier on, we looked at the doc, which seems to now suggest that Xana's door was open, so Dylan Mortensen was able to stare straight into a door and see what was going on in the room. But that's by and by. If you didn't see that, you need to go and check that video out. Not now, because we're doing this one now. Here we go. Let's have a look. What's this one about? Well, some of you will have already seen it. If you're following this case, you probably heard. Multiple weapons. This is the order on defendant's motion, eliminate vague and undisclosed expert testimony. And we're going to come down. I thought I said Jane Eyre. Isn't that like a book, Jane Eyre's? I don't want to hear about balance. It's this bit that I could have done this earlier, but I wanted you to see, bloody hell, Michael Douglas. He's in it as well. Sheesh, all the famous people. This is the one. Darren Gilbertson, right? Defendant disclosed expert opinions from Brent Turvey that more than one assailant was necessary to accomplish the crime in the time frame alleged, which is something that we have consistently said. This feels like, even to the layman, which I am, and some of you are a lot more bright than what I am, but me, I've always considered this a multiple perp crime. The fact that it was done so quickly, in, out, bish, bash, bosh, if you're been made to believe that this crime happened when they say it happened, then I feel that this is multiple perp. So specifically, he asserts that there is direct and indirect evidence that attempts were made by the suspect or suspects to clean up the crime scene after the homicides. So that in itself, what we've got to think is the time frame. So you're doing the crime, multiple people involved, multiple deaths, and on top of that, cleaning. We joked about the Hoover, didn't we? We joked, remember? Well, that was actually a Hoover by the look of it. They done this crime and then went around hoovering. But this was about, I would imagine, a latent footprint. Latent meaning that had been wiped up. And which to me, when you factor in what we heard earlier, right? What we've heard earlier, that I believe someone from that house went in and seen the other students, saw the victims. They've gone into that room and they've stood in it, and they've gone back to their room and they've thought, fuck. Now this is a cover-up, mate. This to me reeks of cover-up. We saw what had happened. We didn't report it. And I'm not talking about covering up that they did something. What I'm saying they're covering up is the fact that they did fuck all. That's what this reads like. This reads like there was things that were seen and known, and they didn't do anything about it. They didn't do anything. And they knew what had happened, and it took 8 hours, and they were contacting other people and getting other people's opinions. And then you've got to think, well, why is that then? Why would you do that? Is it because there is such an in-bed way of life with respect of the fraternities and sororities that if something happens, you have to go through this procedure before obtaining help from law enforcement? Or is there something a little bit more sinister involved? Do they know who did it? So it was about getting stories straight, whatever. But there's an 8-hour period where law enforcement weren't called, and everything that I'm reading so far suggests that the people inside that house knew exactly what happened and nothing was done about it. Let me know down below what you think. So specific, right? Attempts were clean up the crime scene after homicides, which would have taken far longer than the time internal interval alleged by the state. And two, there were multiple weapons used against Kaylee Gonsalves, and Xana and Ethan appeared to have been attacked at the same time. So the only thing that I can fathom from this is similar to what Lana at Truth and Transparency said. To be saying that they are attacked at the same time, I'm taking that as literal, that they are attacked at the same time. So not one and then you go to the next one, because that's if you walk into a room and these two people are alert and you attack one, the other one's going to jump in. And Ethan's a lump, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He was a lump of a lad. So the fact that they are dispatched at the same time and they're talking about multiple weapons, so is there cross contamination of DNA? Where we've spoken about this before, I did a special diagram that showed you go from one, you get DNA from number one, you go to the person number two and you take DNA from that person and put it onto that one, you then go to the next one. So as you make your way through the chain of victims, in theory the final victim will still have DNA, especially at the wound sites of the three, the people who were dispatched before them. So if there's an issue with that chain of of DNA, you have yourself an issue. There is a break. So that is potentially why they're saying multiple weapons, because there is no cross contamination of DNA at the wound sites. That's what I'm getting here. Which we've also heard some other things around Kaylee Gonsalves as well, which is a flashback into the early days of things that were said with respect to Steve Gonsalves, talking specifically about Kaylee's injuries. And it just now, when you start having flashbacks of things previously that now seem to be making a lot more sense, you have to ask yourself, what is actually going on here? Because you do have a crime that does look like multiple perpetrators. You've got a crime that looks like the people who was surviving in this property knew what was going on and did nothing. And all of these questions deserve an answer, because it's in these details, these elements of this crime, that somewhere lies a like we'll go through all of these docs on Sunday. I'm going to go through all of them, so we've got through them all, and we can have a chat about them properly. But do you know what I mean? There's so many questions around this, so many little elements to it that aren't making up, or as we move through the gears, things are changing. Like again, what I was speaking about this morning, the door, Xana's door, was supposedly shut and had to be opened by Hunter, because Ethan was wedged up against the door. That seems now that that's not the case. That when Dylan Mortensen walks or runs to Bethany Funk's room, she literally sees Xana in her room and can even tell the position she's laying in. Now, she will say that she thought she was drunk. Well, I'm not buying that, because you're then ringing everybody around the house and you're not getting any answer. You've said you're scared. Why aren't you calling for help, man? It makes no sense. Doesn't make any sense to me. Make it make sense. Let me know down below what you think, and join me tomorrow night live as we go over the rest of these absolutely insane documents. Mwah.